guys, this is Dave. Today we're just chatting a little bit about Rocket Lab. It actually broke the $12 mark today, which is absolutely crazy. $12 per share, getting close to a 3x on my shares. So that would be 3 down, 2 to go, because when I originally started buying, I thought this was potentially a 5x plus stock, although I didn't expect it to happen quite this soon. Really exciting stuff for the company. We also had a great new interview today released with Peter Beck by Markets with Madison. I'm going to check out a couple highlights of that today and just share with you my, unedited initial reactions. But I don't want to just go through the entire interview here because I do think, Madison deserves credit and deserves having everyone go check out her channel and watch it there. So just a quick few highlights of my reactions, and love to hear your thoughts on what Peter said as well. And do check out Madison's channel for the full interview. Will be linked in the description below. If you're new here, I hope you will consider hitting that subscribe button by the end of the video. Every new subscriber, very much appreciated. And if you're not new here, I love hearing your thoughts and comments down below as well. Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk Rocket Lab. All right, so here we have the one-day chart of Rocket Lab stock, and you can see that early-ish in the day, around 11 o'clock, we were actually briefly above $12 per share, which is absolutely amazing, something I didn't expect. Looks like 1204-ish might have been the high before we kind of trailed back down throughout the day, but still a decently up day, 2.5%. Can't complain about it. Not a lot of Rocket Lab specific news today. It seemed to mostly just be a generally macro-driven market. Obviously, zooming out 1 year, we're now looking at 172% return on the year. Great run for the company. Honestly, lately, the entire move really seems macro-driven to me as opposed to anything Rocket Lab has done itself. Obviously, Neutron isn't launching yet. We haven't actually really had any big contract announcements for a little while, which isn't shocking because those can be lumpy, and then when you get one of the big ones, it can, practically double your backlog in a single contract. Definitely curious to hear what you guys think fair value is for this company. I talk to a lot of people online, and I'm always trying to learn and get different perspectives. But, when I chat with people on Twitter or X and they just say, Rocket Lab is always a buy, will always be a buy at any price, no matter what. If it's infinity, I'll still be adding more shares. And while that's great and I love your enthusiasm, I don't think you're bringing a lot to the conversation in terms of trying to figure out how much things are really worth, when to be buying, when to not be buying, and that sort of thing. I've said previously I'm kind of holding for now, see where this levels off at. We've kind of climbed a cliff lately, and I haven't sold a single share, but I would like to see how things go, where things stabilize, if we establish a new, more long-term support. And you know what? We have a bunch of time before the first Neutron launch, before we hit profitability, and the company will look very different once we get Neutron launching, which will be very exciting. And there still is a little bit of time to see where things settle before that happens, and hopefully make some plays around Neutron's launch and achieving profitability. Okay, let's go ahead and take a watch of Madison's interview, and I'll give you a few of my immediate reactions and highlights from that interview.
So tell us everything that has been done so far. You have tested Archimedes with the hot fire.
Yeah. Just tell us everything.
The pad for LC3. You've got the water tower up, changed the skyline at Wallops.
Yep.
You're building the new ICF.
Yep.
What's yet?
Propulsion, we took a relatively different, we took quite a different path with propulsion, for example. Normally you develop elements of an engine and you put them on an engine test stand and you test like a thrust chamber or a combustion chamber, and then you might test elements of a pump, elements of a valve, and then years later you bring them together, and then years later from that you actually put it on a production line and produce it. We didn't take that approach. We've built 500 and something engines. We kind of know what we're doing these days. So we built the production line for that engine. Everything that, that first engine that went on the stand, there was just no flight, no industrial articles on there. It was all flight. It was built on a production line by production technicians, and that is the engine that we intend to fly. And that as an approach, it's a little bit risky in the fact that if that engine had a fundamental issue or performed very badly, then the program would be behind. But on the flip side to that, now we're banging engines out of a production line, so the program, at least on the propulsion side, is now ahead. So it swings and roundabouts in that sense.
Because I was wondering if you might need to raise capital to finish it.
Yeah, no. I mean, you saw us do that convertible note earlier in the year, and that was really to put some powder in the barrels for acquisitions. As far as Neutron goes, we don't need to raise any capital for that project.
Bought and paid for.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, things start to get much more interesting when we start flying customers' payloads, because the balance sheet looks totally different, because it's a $55 million launch at that point, whereas right now it's all R&D. So things change pretty quickly.
You mentioned at the very beginning of this conversation.
Exciting to see that change happen, I have to admit. See how it plays out in the numbers on the balance sheet. Obviously not quite as exciting as watching a rocket launch, but for us investors, that's really the important part.
So nobody is more motivated than us to get through that development and then through the scaling and all the rest of it. But if you're an investor and I think anybody in the space industry has to be a little bit patient for sure.
So why did you feel the need to drop in Archimedes engine hot fire hype video?
Oh yeah, that was super funny. Yeah. Well, I mean, it
was a good time.
I think one could make a direct correlation between the increasing value of the company and the short interest and those kinds of things happen in this world. So look, generally we just keep our heads down and just do stuff. And
I think this is the first time I've ever actually heard him directly mention short interest. And, I don't talk about it too much just because I think there is a bit of hedging when it comes to the cap call transaction going on that kind of artificially increases it, although I'm sure it's definitely not all that or majority that, especially as the share price rises. But yeah, pretty cool to hear him directly address short interest and stock prices and that kind of thing. Let's continue on. So we're not fixated on every hot fire, posting and all the rest of it. But when opportunities to have a little bit of fun come along, then it was fun. Oh, what a time for an advertisement.
Rude not to.
Just to be clear, that first hot fire did or did not fail?
Of course it didn't fail. Yeah, no. I mean, there was no catastrophic explosion or anything like that. Not at all.
So we can dispel that Reddit rumor right now?
Well, I think we already have. I mean, if you watch the videos, you can see serial number 1 engine running. So I think that's pretty straightforward.
Short interest, when I checked, was 18% of the total float, 11% of the total shares outstanding, if you'd prefer that figure. What do you make of that increasing short interest in your company?
Well, I mean, when we did the convert, there's always more shorts that come along with the convert, and it's not surprising at all. In fact, it's probably surprising that it's that low, given the amount of failure in the space industry. I mean, you don't need to look far to see just a large number of space companies, especially launch companies that really had no chance, promised the Earth, and then just absolutely ran into a wall.
You've spoken to me twice now, you've mentioned it again today, and we spoke about this last time as well, that Neutron breaks up that monopoly that a competitor has. I'm assuming you're talking about SpaceX. You've mentioned Starlink there. Are you not only going to go after SpaceX's launch business, but are you also going to go after Starlink directly?
Well, look, we don't talk about what application we're going after because it's just too early. And it's kind of irrelevant. I'm a very kind of methodical person. I like to finish one thing before I start the next, and there's no point about really digging into applications until Neutron's flying. It's just irrelevant. But look, you have a whole spectrum of things you do in space, and the broadband space vertical is one shaft of light in a giant spectrum. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to go after there.
I feel like that's a good way of saying we're not going to go directly after Starlink without actually, confirming or denying anything. Just talking about, the broadband internet being like one vertical, and there's a lot of verticals. I feel like, again, I mean, I've been saying this for ages, but I don't feel like they're going for broadband direct to mobile internet constellation, or even broadband internet constellation necessarily, at least at first.
So if we go back to those maths equations, once it is revenue additional, where Neutron is, when could investors see a dividend?
Oh, God. A dividend. Oh, I mean, I feel like they could put that money to better use for a long time.
Well, I mean, look, I don't think we've publicly spoken about that. I mean, right now, as I keep saying, like it's all hands to the pump to get Neutron to the pad. But the business changes pretty significantly. Once we start flying that vehicle, and if you just minus out Neutron investment to date, then the company looks very profitable. But we've made a conscious decision to heavily invest in that product.
And in the
something,
meantime,
sorry, and I, by the way, I love how this interview is very like numbers and investor focused, because a lot of the time, people just come to interview Peter as like a general interest piece or space piece, and not really talk about the profitability of the business. So yeah, I do like that from Madison, but that's something I want to research, and I think I will very soon, is just checking in on how profitable or not profitable Rocket Lab is currently without the Neutron spend. If you back that out, because it's temporary, and we've heard this claim before, so I think it'd be interesting to double check that. But anyway, let's continue on.
you're also going to Mars to retrieve some samples for scientific purposes.
No.
Just casually on the side.
Well,
Talk to me about that opportunity.
let's be clear here. We are still.
Sorry, guys, but I just hate how so many people out there seem to think like it's a done deal. Rocket Lab's going to get these samples. No, they're like one of 8 people doing a study to, try and show that their architecture could work.
Studying whether or not we can put together an architecture that NASA thinks is sufficiently viable to then go and do. So we're at the early stages of that program. So yes, we've been awarded a study contract from NASA to retrieve the samples that are sitting on the surface of Mars right now and bring them back home to Earth. And I think we're uniquely placed for that, because if you asked around the industry who's the best at the world at building a super small rockets for launching off planets, it's us. And then there's only 2 commercial companies that have re-entered a capsule and landed it safely back on Earth, and one of them is us. So these are like 2 core elements, like launching off another planet with a little rocket and bringing a little thing home and landing it safely, let alone some of the other technologies. And who's building Mars spacecraft right now?
You actually built 2 of them.
Yeah. So
not that they're yet to be flown yet. We're going to have to wait a year for that. But
well,
that's all right.
yeah. But the point being is, like, we have really critical key elements that enable that mission.
After this conversation, I don't think you would go and have a crack at something if you didn't think you could execute on it.
Well, absolutely not. No. I don't. No. I think we'll put something together that will work. The question is, it's just a big political question about who ends up doing it.
If it ever happens, please give me a call.
Yeah.
So, Peter Beck, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it, as always.
Cheers.
Now, stay there. I'm just going to ask you a few more questions just about the Wallops facility. What are we going to see? How epic is it?
Well, I mean, there's a lot. So it's kind of like an iceberg. For whatever concrete you see sticking in the ground, there's like 2/3 of that below the ground. So you're going to see, a lot of concrete, a lot of steel, and a lot of a busy site, working together to get that pad all operational.
Stay tuned for part 2.
Looking forward to it. The full interview is definitely worth a watch, and it will be in the description down below, linked there if you want to check it out. Worth mentioning, we did also have a new report from KeyBank Capital Markets that reiterated their overweight rating and increased their price targets to $12 a share. So very brave of them to change their price target once again to what the price currently is. I joke a little bit, but honestly, these analysts, often following the stock and just making sure they're still overweight on it. So I don't always put a ton of weight into what they say, but yeah, KeyBank at least upgrading their price target for what that may be worth. One other thing I figured I'd mention, since we seem to be going over the impromptu Rocket Lab news here, is that the Commerce Department unveiled regulatory changes opening new markets for U.S. companies. So hopefully this will help out with space companies, Rocket Lab included. These changes are to export control rules for space technology, a move aimed at bolstering American competitiveness in the global space industry. The new regulations will make it easier for U.S. companies, including Rocket Lab, which has a big portion of it in the United States, to sell satellites, launch vehicles, and other space-related technologies to close allies, including the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia. So hopefully, assuming things don't change with the election, I can't see why anyone would want to roll back this particular rule, regardless of which party won. They will find it a little bit easier to sell satellites and Neutron launches going forward. Maybe this is long-term a little bullish to the overall space industry and Rocket Lab. Again, not earth-shattering, and you're not going to see like all of a sudden Rocket Lab's Space Systems division just double overnight or anything. But it's nice to see. You always do hear that regulatory hurdles and security issues can really have a drain on the amount of demand and what you're able to do. So this could certainly help that. We've heard many times before about this ITAR and how Rocket Lab can have problems with that in terms of the left hand in the United States knowing what the right hand is doing and vice versa, because I think it was technically rockets could be a weapon and it's not supposed to leave the United States, but half of the company isn't in the United States. So you have American employees working on Neutron can't consult their New Zealand counterparts or something like that from what I've heard. Hopefully this would, ease some of those issues. I'm, again, not a legal expert or an ITAR expert though myself. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do check out that full interview from Markets with Madison. Sorry, this one is completely unscripted. Just kind of figured I'd go on. Felt like chatting with you guys. Felt like getting your reactions to Madison's video and giving my reaction and just talking about the stock and the state of things now that we have hit another 52-week high here, breaking $12 per share. Extremely exciting. Congratulations to all Rocket Lab shareholders out there. Definitely been a very good year for us, so no complaints there. I hope you guys have a great day and a great rest of the week. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.